Well, last night the I-Team heard from a panel of stakeholders and policymakers as the debate to regulate contractors rolls on in Maine.
Yeah, here to tell us more about last night's contractor conflict town hall is the I-Team's Dan Lampariello. Good morning, Dan. Thanks for coming on.
Guys, always a pleasure to be here with you.
All right, so let's start first with how the I-Team first became aware of this problem and how it led to this town hall.
Yeah, so I mean, this is an issue we've been covering as a team, as a station for the better part of 40 years, long before I was born, long before I joined the team here. But consistently we're hearing from viewers who are having issues when they hire a contractor to build a home. They give them, a down payment or some money, and they end up with either incomplete work where the contractor may walk off the job, or they end up with shoddy work that needs to be redone. And so this has been a conversation that's been happening for years, and how Maine right now lacks consumer protections to hold those people accountable.
And here's the thing, the people that need the work done, they don't know who to trust anymore. And that's what makes it so difficult. They don't know, especially we keep doing these stories, they're going, am I going to get ripped off? A friend of a friend said this guy's great, but who knows, they could. I mean, I had somebody that was affected by this guy that you did the story on too.
Sure, yeah, back on Tuesday night. And that's what we've seen is kind of this pattern. So the town hall last night really focused on this discussion overall of what kind of consumer protections can be put in place. For 40 years, the legislature has debated, is licensure the right way to go? Is a registration the right way to go? And nothing has passed over the years. So we've kind of been in this back and forth of what can we do. And last night we started to look at, okay, this new debate. There's a new licensure bill up in Augusta right now. And I'll let you hear from the bill sponsor here in a second, who kind of says this isn't the perfect solution. It may or may not be, but we need to start somewhere, is her thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like you said, that bill, we'll be hearing from that bill sponsor. And it's so interesting because hairdressers need a license, sure. But these contractors don't in the state right now, and I'm pretty sure we're only one of 6 states that don't have this.
We are. We're one of 6 states right now that don't have this. There are red and blue states all across the country. The only other state in New England that doesn't have it right now is New Hampshire. So right next door to us, we're kind of like, we see people go over the border, do this, come over here and do this. I'm not sure if we have the sound from Tiffany Roberts, but I want you to just hear why she doesn't think, this is maybe the perfect solution, but it could be something that gets us closer to some protections.
Because we've gone so far down the road of not regulating, there's not going to be one perfect, set of laws or standards. We've got to figure it out as we go and work our way back to get on the road of consumer protection and giving integrity to the industry.
Yeah, we mentioned it, Maine remains just one of a few states with no regulation for contractors. I mean, why? For 40 years this has been going on. What's been the problem that we haven't been able to get something passed, but so many other people have to have a license to be able to operate here in the state?
Sure. Last night's discussion was really dived into the fact that nobody opposes consumer protections here, right? Nobody supports fraud happening. I think everybody kind of agrees that something needs to be done to protect consumers, whether that is, giving more investment in our current laws for more enforcement of those types of things, adding down on code enforcement to double check on these types of things. But the big opposition right now is we've talked a lot about Maine being in a housing crisis. We need almost 70,000 new homes before 2030 to meet the current demand. And I'll let you hear from both the Maine Association of Realtors here, who has some concerns about this legislation, and a contractor who kind of is on the opposite side, talking about how they believe this could add some red tape. Because we need so many homes and we need a workforce to build them, there's kind of a debate right now on how this could affect that overall. I'll let you hear their both sides here.
When you take impact, regulations, all those fees, they add on to the cost of building houses. So yeah, I just think it's the wrong time right now because of the shortage of housing. We need housing, and the more restrictions that we put on, or regulations, it's going to impact, some of these builders. It could force some of these builders out.
The homeowner is where that gets passed on to, and I think that because they have some confidence, and now they have a system that licensed contractors, that they are willing to, if you were to say $500 for my license, they would pay it because they know that you take some pride in your work and doing the right things.
All right, so we touched on this a little bit, but where do we go from here? Are legislators still debating this right now?
They are. So this bill to license contractors passed out of committee. It was on a party line vote. Democrats supported it as is, which creates a licensure for any project over a certain amount of money. And then Republicans added a divided report. They put a separate kind of proposal out there to create a working group. They think this should kind of be studied a little bit more to see who exactly is going to be licensed. You know, there's a lot of different types of contractors out there. There's a contractor that can be paving your driveway, a contractor that could be putting a roof on your home. So are all of those going to be licensed? That's kind of what they want to study. The full legislature now will get to decide.
And you know, I know a couple of people that are in the construction business, and they'll be the first ones to tell you, yeah, we need to stop this because it makes us all look bad.
Sure.
So they really encourage you to do your homework, to check on reviews, to check other people that have worked for, and everything else like that. And that's an important part of it too, part of the puzzle.
And it's one part that, you know, we're not here to say what is going to be the solution here. We're just here to say we're constantly hearing from people who are having these problems. And our job as journalists, as consumer advocates, is to say, you know, do your research. Give them the tools that they can right now under the current laws to hopefully avoid any of this happening. But it will be interesting to see if any added protections come from this conversation.
Yeah, that's great that both sides of the aisle are kind of exploring this right now. This is such a huge topic and huge issue and impacting so many Mainers.
And no one size fits all model. I mean, there's so many facets of this issue, and that's why we wanted to bring together all of those stakeholders last night, because it's a meaningful conversation.
In the construction work, you did the story on Tuesday night, right? And we aired it again on Wednesday morning. How many people have filed complaints? You said over 20?
So, yeah, there were 18 complaints with the Maine Attorney General's office alone against the two companies this gentleman owns. And then we went through Cumberland County Court, where there are both open and closed, about 14 civil cases. And that's really the only avenue for a lot of victims right now, is to take this to civil court. But that costs money. So not only may they be out money from the job that they had already paid for, but now they're having to pay an attorney and court costs to try and get some of that money back. And in many cases, some of these people don't have money to give back.
They're stealing, so why can't they be arrested?
That's another question we're going to be diving into. There are codes, you know, you'd think a lot of this stuff may be theft or other things under the law. And opponents of the new licensure proposal say those laws should be better enforced. So we're going to start looking into that angle as a team a little bit more to see what barriers they may be to not be holding people accountable under the current law, because it's very few and far between that we actually see people charged in these cases.
All right, Dan, thanks for coming on. Lots of useful information.
Yeah. How can people see the special and some of the stories you've done?
Absolutely. It lives on our YouTube page and our website. If you scan the QR code, I think we're going to have on our screen here, you'll be able to get right to our YouTube page. But if you just go to WGME.com, it's on our homepage right now as well.
All right. And I don't see the problem going away anytime soon.
No, it's something we're going to continue to follow.
Yeah.
All right.